Hate him or love him, Neymar is one of the most talented footballers of all time. He has never won the prestigious Ballon d'Or award and might never win one. Nonetheless, he is one of the finest in the game. The Brazilian is recognized for his skills and tricks. As much as these qualities make him stand out from several other players in the game, they have made him disliked by fans and professional footballers too. These are the top 10 players who hate Neymar. Number 10. Edinson Cavani. To form a strong bond. The football world saw this happen with Messi, Suarez, and Neymar in Barcelona. Also, the arrival of Messi to PSG saw him form a great bond with Neymar. Unfortunately, the short time Cavani spent playing alongside Neymar at PSG was not the best for him. Before the arrival of Neymar to PSG, Cavani was the team's penalty taker and he was doing very well. But with the arrival of Neymar, Cavani got relegated in the scheme of things. Not only was he replaced as the team's penalty taker, he became less and less important while Neymar's importance in the team grew. In the end, there was some real bad blood between the two players, and Cavani had to move to Manchester United. At the time, it seemed like it was all over. However, the bad blood continued when Brazil and Uruguay met. Until date, Edinson is not cool with Neymar. Additionally, he is one of the big players that do not see eye to eye with the Brazilian superstar. Number 9. Kylian Mbappe. Speaking of Neymar's teammates not liking him, in very much the same way as the Brazilian had issues with Cavani, there has also been a bit of tension between him and Mbappe. Before the arrival of the Frenchman, Neymar was considered the face of PSG and perhaps the best thing to happen to the club in a long while. However, with Mbappe joining PSG from Monaco, things began to change little by little until Kylian grew so big and decided to leave the club. The management of the club did not want him to leave, so they made him so powerful he could decide who stayed and who left the club. As much as we are not in the PSG dressing room, word on the street had it that Kylian did not want to continue having Neymar as a teammate. While it might be difficult to know his reason, it could simply be because they both have very big egos and a clash of egos has become the norm in the club. Beyond the clash of egos, with Mbappe's new power, he asked the coach to hand him the responsibilities of taking penalties. This did not sit well with Neymar, and while both players still seem to get along occasionally, it's almost common knowledge that Mbappe does not like Neymar Jr. Number 8. Fernando Enzo. If you think the big stars are the only ones that have some form of issue with Neymar, you just might have to think again. Neymar and Enzo first met publicly in a Champions League match between Benfica and PSG. One would have expected Neymar, being the bigger player, to take things easy, but being who he is, he had no respect for the young Argentine midfielder. The game was pretty normal, with Neymar doing what he is known best for. He really had no confrontations with Enzo while the game lasted. However, he believed the Argentine referred to him as an idiot. So, at the end of the game, he refused to swap shirts with the young player. This was followed by an intense discussion. Although they have not met in other games, it is easy to say Enzo does not like Neymar. Well, things do not seem so bad right now. However, they might get worse if the Brazilian moves to Chelsea, where Enzo is already making a name for himself. Number 7. Alvaro Gonzalez. Alvaro Gonzalez is perhaps not one of the biggest players in Europe. However, PSG players and fans have felt his impact in games. The Marseille player once got into a brawl with the Brazilian superstar in a match between PSG and Marseille. Stadiums are very noisy, so it will be difficult to correctly tell how the brawl between Neymar and Gonzalez started. However, Neymar accused Gonzalez of using racist remarks. Gonzalez, on the other hand, denied using any words that are associated with racism. No one knew who was speaking the truth and who was lying. However, things degenerated very quickly until they started a fight. At the end of the match, it seemed the fight was all over. However, the two players still had bad blood between them, and as it stands, they do not hide their disgust for each other. They constantly engage in a war of words on the pitch, and it does not appear like this mutual feeling of hatred will end anytime soon. As much as one might want to blame Gonzalez for saying the wrong things, Neymar seems to have a reputation for disrespecting fellow players. Number 6. Nelson Semedo. Speaking of Neymar being disrespectful towards other players, the Brazilian once showed the world how disrespectful he can be towards a teammate. The world might be aware that the Brazilian does not have a lot of regard for his opponents. Unfortunately, he does not even spare his teammates. One of the Brazilian's teammates that has been on the receiving end of his disrespect is Nelson Semedo. The right-back joined Barcelona while the Brazilian was still in Spain and was looking to have a great start in training. With training on, Semedo, who was all about making a good impression, gave Neymar a hard tackle. Neymar hit the floor and was really furious. He got up to a challenge and had to be restrained by other teammates. Semedo was not as big as Neymar was in Barcelona. As a newbie, there was not much he could do. However, Neymar's action made him develop a real dislike for the Brazilian player. Number 5. Thiago Djalo. as he showed his dislike for the PSG star in a match between Lille and PSG. The match was almost ending when Djalo gave Neymar a tackle that the Brazilian considered both unnecessary and too hard. Neymar responded angrily and shoved the Portuguese player. For a moment, it seemed like it was tit for tat and everything was going to end. Unfortunately, things did not end. They went on raining insults at each other. What started as a tackle that was a little too hard finally degenerated to a... The two players earned themselves red cards for their ugly actions. Apparently, this was not good enough to make them stop fighting, as they kept fighting even in the tunnel. Number 4. Juan Camilo Zuniga. It is easy for players to get irritated by Neymar's reaction to tackles. One might want to blame the player, however, it is not entirely his fault. He has been a recipient of very hard tackles, and one of them could have ended his career as far back as 2014. It was 2014, and Brazil were up against Colombia in the World Cup, which was being played on Brazilian soil. At this time, Brazil did not have lots of their players in form, so it appeared everyone was depending on the PSG star for the results, and he really brought his A-game to the tournament. In this World Cup quarter-final match, the Brazilians seemed to dribble the Colombian players with relative ease, and they were not comfortable with it. Things seemed normal until Zuniga flew in with a tough tackle which ruined Neymar's World Cup campaign. Not only did this tackle set point, it became obvious that he doesn't really enjoy seeing the Brazilian. Number 3. Gabi. Zuniga was extremely hard on Neymar, but he was not the only one that showed a lot of bad blood with his tackles. Gabi also showed how much he does not like the PSG star when he was a little too hard on the PSG player. His reason for this seemed quite straightforward. Neymar was disrespectful and the Atletico Madrid player just wasn't having it. Number 2. Andy Delort. Things were quite tense between the two players, and while talking to the press after the match, Andy Delort said, "Neymar is a great player, but he needs to respect his opponents." Zlatan could say what he wanted to the media, but on the pitch, he was respectful. Number 1. Anthony Gonçalves. At number 1, we have Anthony Gonçalves. Strasbourg player has been rough with Neymar in the past and has been absolutely unapologetic about things. The defender once sent Neymar to the hospital after their teams met in a match in which PSG won by 2-0. When speaking about the match when it was all over, Gonçalves said, "When we are competitors, even if we play PSG, we always want to win. We are disappointed, but I want to remember the state of mind." Speaking of Neymar, he said, "Neymar, that's his style. He's a great player, but we're not there to have fun with him. We respond with our weapons and we have colors to defend. We're not here to joke, so he must not come and cry after." Who do you think is most uncomfortable with the Brazilian? Please let us know what you think in the comment section. Before moving on, please hit the share and like buttons. Also, subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this.